Hello and welcome all to my channel, Beyond the Cubicle. My name is Fort Queens and I thank you for stopping by. If this is your first time watching, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you will not miss any of the goodies that I have in store for you. Today, I am sharing with you some health information which I believe is vital for one's well being and longevity. And always remember to seek your doctor or physician's advice before attempting any health suggestion. So remember, I am just providing some information I got through some research. So let's dive in. So where I am located, it's in about 3 hours, it's going to be time for bed, and most people will be getting ready to sleep. And what you do now as you get ready to go to sleep is to prepare for when you wake the next morning. So here's what you do because this is important. First, place an 8-ounce glass of water next to your nightstand and also leave your cell phone and all computer devices out of reach, preferably in another room if you can. As what I am about to say next may prevent early morning cardiac event, especially if you are age 60 years and older. So the first 30 minutes upon waking is key here. All right, so the research has shown that between 4 a.m. and noon, one's blood pressure surges, your heart rate climbs, and your blood thickens and is more prone to clotting, and also your adrenaline spikes. This is a natural process that occurs in your body to get you ready and alert to start your day. However, if you are 60 years and older, your cardiovascular system is not able to adequately manage this surge as when you were in your 40s. Okay? All right, so before I go further, I do see I have someone in the chat saying hi. Oh, hi, girly poop. Welcome to my channel. So glad to have you. Yes, so as I was saying, that one's body goes through a biological shift. You know, it's a natural process, but when you are older, especially age 60 and older, your cardiovascular system is not able to manage the surge adequately as when you were in your 40s. So as I was saying that in the hours of 4 a.m. and noon, your body undergoes a dramatic and dangerous biological process where your blood pressure rises, your heart rate climbs, and your blood becomes measurably thicker and more prone to clotting. Okay? Your stress hormones also and your adrenaline sparks or spike sharply, and this is called the morning cardiovascular surge. It is an entirely natural process, and your body is doing exactly what it was designed to do to prepare you to be alert and to move and to function. But here's the problem. After 60, your cardiovascular system is no longer able to handle the surge the way it did in your 40s and 30s. As one blood vessels become less flexible the older they become. And your autonomic nervous system responds more slowly. Then there is also your blood's tendency to clot. The tendency for one's blood to clot is already elevated in older adults. And so this natural morning surge, which a younger person may navigate without incident, becomes a genuine danger window for adults in their 60s and 70s. Studies also show that the majority of heart attacks and strokes occur between 6 in the morning as well. So, this is not because of what one eats for breakfast or because of what medications they take, but because of how they transition from sleep to waking. And, the speed of that transition from sleep to waking is what contributes to a cardiovascular event happening. And so, a lot of Americans and millions of Americans, do this without thinking because of how they sleep, how they transition from sleep to waking. So, what I'm about to describe, the medical community has known for many years that this, sudden waking and grabbing for your phone and start exercising, is really not beneficial and should be avoided at all costs. For example, a study published in Frontiers found that I'm so sorry, please bear with me one moment. Yes, so a Frontier study has shown that this kind of immediate cognitive and emotional stimulation when one reaches for their phone and start responding to emails or reading the news, for example, in the morning, caused a measurable spike in blood pressure in adults over 60 that lasted, on average, 47 minutes. So 47 minutes of elevated blood pressure starting from the moment you first open your eyes for someone whose blood vessels are already working harder due to age-related changes in their arterial flexibility. That additional pressure spike is not trivial. It is a difference between a controlled morning surge and a dangerous one. Okay. All right. So before I go further, I want to welcome all of you that are listening. And if you are new here, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share so that others, can, benefit from this information. So also I want to welcome all my new subscribers as well. Welcome. And I'm so happy and delighted to have you. So here's something that most people miss. The content, of what you're reading, in the newspaper or on your phone, it doesn't have to be stressful. It doesn't even have to be bad news or even positive information or neutral, as any content activates the same neurological response that your cardiologist talks to you about. For example, cholesterol, you know, and here's what exactly happens to your heart in the first 30 seconds after you open your eyes. And here is how to protect yourself, from this surge that happens in your body. So, if I ask you, what is the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning? And what is the very first thing you do? Do you sit up immediately and reach for your phone? Or do you get straight out of bed and start, your morning exercise routine? Please type, what you normally do in the comments. I genuinely want to know because understanding your habits is the first step to protecting your heart. So let us go through the 7 most dangerous morning mistakes that are quietly increasing cardiac risk in adults over 60. Okay, so as I said, the first 2 minutes of waking, it may sound harmless, but here's the science. When you reach for your phone immediately after waking up, you are exposing your already elevated cortisol levels to a flood of new information. For example, email messages. Your brain, which spent the night before in a deeply restorative state, is suddenly, being bombarded with information, and that is subconsciously, spiking your adrenaline without you even knowing it. And without, doing breathing exercise and relaxing before doing so, you are not giving your cardiovascular system time to stabilize before it is hit with stimulation. So, mistake number 2. Remember, I said that at the beginning of the video that before you go to sleep, you place a glass of water at your night table. So, mistake number 6 is not drinking water before, for example, drinking coffee. So, it's important that upon awaking, that you drink at least 12 ounces of water upon waking. So while you are asleep for 7 or 8 hours, remember you lose roughly half a liter of water through breathing and natural body processes. So when you wake up, in a state of mild, you know, dehydration. And at the same time, your blood will be, thicker at any other time in the day. It is so important that drinking water upon awaking is so important because when one is dehydrated, also the blood has a tendency to be thicker in the morning and has a tendency to clot. And drinking coffee adds to this, as it is a mild diuretic, meaning it encourages clotting tendency and it compounds the problem when your blood is thicker, and especially if your blood vessels are not as elastic as when you were younger. So therefore, adequate hydration to maintain your vessel's elasticity is very important. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that adults over 60 who drank coffee as their first morning beverage before consuming any water had measurably high blood viscosity that is easily thicker blood. And this leads to the kinds of cardiovascular events that destroy lives, unfortunately. So the fix here literally takes 30 seconds before you drink coffee. And it is to drink 1 full glass of water at room temperature, not water that is ice cold, but room temperature water that is 12 to 16 ounces. And this single habit done consistently has been shown to meaningfully reduce morning blood viscosity or blood clotting. And it also has been shown to lower, morning blood pressure spikes as well. Okay, so that was number 2 that I had just addressed. So number 3, the third mistake that, older adults tend to make is, when they are laying down, is to getting up immediately or standing up immediately after laying prone in bed. So this tendency is one that sends people to emergency room, and it happens so fast that most people don't even recognize, what has just happened, because getting up immediately after laying down tends to increase dizziness in people, and then they suffer a fall. So to avoid this, it is recommended. And before I go to the recommendation, um, this symptom where one experiences dizziness upon getting up is called orthostatic hypotension, a sudden and sharp drop in blood pressure that occurs upon standing. You may recognize this as that dizzy, disoriented feeling that you get when you get up too fast. And that feeling is your brain briefly not receiving enough blood in mild cases. In, in severe cases, it can cause fainting, and in people with underlying cardiac vulnerability, it triggers dangerous compensatory responses to the heart. So the heart has to try to correct the pressure drop, and this can happen when one stands up too fast upon waking up. So the recommendation is that when you awake, for the first 3 to 5 minutes, you should exercise deep breathing activity, inhale and exhale, and breathe deeply and relax. Do not reach for your phone, and then slowly sit up. And as my mom always say, you should gently sway or swing your legs for a moment or two before standing up. And once you do stand up, do gentle stretches. So this will compensate and help the brain to get adequate blood flow, and this will reduce dizziness and fainting. And the next item that you should do upon waking is to eat breakfast within 1 hour of awaking. And choose breakfast that combines healthy protein and fats, fiber and eggs with vegetables is an example. Also having a handful of nuts with plain yogurt or oatmeal with flaxseed and berries. These combinations have been shown to stabilize blood sugar and reduce morning cortisol and provide your cardiovascular system with clean nutrients. And instead of a volatile spike and crash cycle, here's something that you also want to do as well, that you should eat within 60 minutes of waking, as this reduce cortisol levels and measurably reduce blood pressure compared to those who delay their first meal by 2 hours or more. Remember that your heart has been working all night, and so this will help your cardiovascular system. Mistake number 4 is exercising too intensely in the early morning. Yes, because this also exercise also causes cortisol to increase and also blood pressure. So when one is already having a morning cortisol surge, adding exercise, especially one that is very robust, is very dangerous and can contribute to one having a stroke or, unfortunately, a cardiac event. So it is recommended that exercise should be delayed until the early afternoon hours instead of doing early morning vigorous exercise. So upon waking, it's better to just do light stretching, and and leave more vigorous exercise such as brisk walking or jogging for later in the day. Your heart will not only be safer, it will actually perform better, and this will improve your blood pressure stats. Okay, so to conclude, I also wanted to add a scripture here that is found in 3rd John 1, verse 3, where God says, "Beloved, I wish above all things you that you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospereth." So all created beings live by the will and power of God, and we are all dependent recipients of life from God. Not only is God the originator of all, but He is the life of everything that lives. It is His life that we receive in the sunshine, in the pure, sweet air, and in the food which builds up our bodies and sustains our strength. It is by His life that we exist hour by hour and moment by moment. Except as perverted by sin, all His gifts tend to life and to health as well as to joy. So I trust that you learned something today and are able to incorporate this suggestion. But remember always to seek, health advice first from your physician. And I also want to welcome all my new subscribers. It's a delight having you. And I thank you so much for stopping by, and do have a wonderful rest of the day. And I want to say hi to Marjorie, who is in the chat as well, and also to Marley Whitechurch, as well as Just Let Go 12. Thank you all for stopping by. It's so happy to have you here. And again, I want to wish you all a blessed and wonderful rest of the day. Bye.